What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Jenks Island podcast, the only NFL podcast where you get your takes from a washed-up Division III cornerback. I'm your host, Grayson Jenkins. Back again is Ty McGee, good friend of the podcast. This week, we got the championship games. Both matchups are going to be pretty solid. There's 4 teams. You got the Chiefs, the Bills, the Commies, and, oh my God, the Eagles. And basically, all 4 teams have solid storylines except for the Eagles. You got the Chiefs looking to three-peat, the Bills looking to just kind of overcome that rivalry with the Chiefs in the playoffs and get their first Super Bowl. And the Commies, basically, Jayden Daniels will be the first rookie to ever win the Super Bowl. And they've also been, their fans have been struggling for a long, long time. 1991 was the last time they made it past the championship game, and they won the Super Bowl that year as well. The Eagles, though, not really any big storylines, just trying to get back to the Super Bowl after losing to the Chiefs a couple years ago. Anyways, Ty, this is going to be a fun week. Who do you got in the Commies and Eagles matchup?
Yeah, so I live in D.C., and a lot of the people here in D.C. are buzzing. They're excited. I think last week was a bit of a shock to them, but, now they know, okay, we're kind of here, right? And they're excited about this matchup with the Eagles, having beat them once, without Jalen Hurts. And then the other game being kind of a close game there back in November when Jayden was on a bit of a lull in his, rookie of the year season. So, I feel really, really confident about the Commanders. All season long, I've kind of been, almost a hater to the people in DC, right? Obviously not being a Commanders fan. I've been like, hey, listen, and part of it is the Bo Nix, the bias there and wanting him to be rookie of the year. But this team is, they're a wagon. Dan Quinn, kind of beat Dan Campbell in that matchup of, we're going to go for it on 4th down and we're going to play, balls to the wall football. And, I see that happening again this week, right? This is a team that, they take their chances, they take their shots, but they're just consistent. And what they did last week against Detroit was super, super impressive. Not only, winning that football game, but the amount of points that they let up, or scored. The amount of points that they let up was, not quite as shocking because Detroit's offense is phenomenal. But, I feel really good about this Commanders team. They got the run game going last week, which was really, really promising. We'll see how it goes against Philly this week. A little bit better of a defense. But, like I said, they beat this team before. This is a divisional matchup. Jalen Hurts a little bit banged up. Quinyon Mitchell's a little bit banged up. Both of them will probably play, right? But it's, anytime you're coming banged up, everyone's hurt at this point of the season, right? Let's get that out of the way. But, being questionable on the injury report is a little bit more serious. Obviously, like I said, I think they both play. But, if they lose Quinyon at any point in the game, right, it's it's tough for them, right? And we saw it last week. They lost Quinyon, and that Rams passing game kind of came alive in the snow. Some of those guys catch some of those balls. Stafford was slinging it. This is a bit of a different game. So, I believe in the Commies. The Eagles worried me a lot last week. I know I've been high on the Rams, kind of all season long. But, home field advantage, you're playing in the snow, you're playing a team from LA that plays in the dome. Like, you had all the advantages and kind of only really beat them because of some drop passes and Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
So, we'll see how it shakes out this week. Saquon's going to be an X factor. I just, when it comes down to, we've talked about this kind of all season long, right? When it comes to these close games, it's, who can you trust either in a head coach battle or a quarterback battle or a defensive battle? This one for me is who can I trust in the quarterback battle? And I just, as for a rookie, I trust Jayden Daniels a hell of a lot more than I trust Jalen Hurts. So, it's going to be the Commies for me. I'm taking my city's team.
Yeah, I like that you brought up, the Eagles, sort of their offense not really doing as much as they could have, except for Saquon's performance. Because outside of those 2 huge runs by Saquon and then the run in the first quarter by Jalen Hurts, Saquon didn't do very much between those 2 runs. He had like 20 rushes for 50 yards, something like that in between the 2. And he had those 2 breakout runs. And without those, it was the same thing that happened against the Rams in the regular season, right? There was the same thing. A lot of big runs that won in that game. But the Rams stayed in it the whole time in a snowy game where they were still able to throw the ball. If it weren't for a Kyren Williams fumble, maybe they win that game. Who knows? The Commies on their side, like you said, their offense absolutely humming. Jayden Daniels is playing like possibly a top 5 quarterback. Like, some of the throws he's making are just absolutely ridiculous, like off base, off 1 foot or on balance throws that are just perfectly on the money, and he's playing with a lot less weapons than guys like Jalen Hurts and Jared Goff are in the NFC. So I think the commies come out and beat the Eagles. I think they're really hot right now. So I got to agree with you. I'm going to go the commies here. I can't pick against what they're doing. I've picked against them twice already in the playoffs, and I'm not going to do it again. Next, we got the AFC Championship. We got the Bills taking on the Chiefs in Arrowhead. This is going to be a fun one because obviously we all know the past is definitely a storyline here because the Bills have came into Arrowhead a few times, and then they also went to the Orchard Park last year and lost there as well with a missed kick, which is haunting for a lot of Bills fans out there. But this matchup, you got Josh Allen taking on Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes this year, not as good of a performance over the season as Josh Allen, but still in the playoffs, Patrick Mahomes comes alive. He makes plays happen. And then the Bills, they got to do the same this week. They got to stay clean on the offensive side of the ball. Josh Allen needs to not try to possibly make plays like he did at the end of the game last week, where he seemingly was about to lateral the ball to James Cook while he was getting tackled and could have possibly just been catastrophic. And it was very terrifying for all the Bills fans out there. But Patrick Mahomes, we saw it, right? He gets all the calls on offense. The refs are like giving all this special treatment. Jared Goff seemingly got the coins knocked out of him like Mario on the pick six that the commies had. And if that was Patrick Mahomes, I would have seen like 5 flags on the field. So this is going to be a fun one. I just don't want the refs to get involved here. I think the offense is the biggest part. The Chiefs, right? They have all these weapons. They have Travis Kelce, who's getting back involved like he always does in the playoffs. Can that offense stay hot against the Bills defense that's really been playing very well over the last few weeks? And for that reason, I'm going to go with the Bills. I think their defense has been playing well. I think their offense is playing even better. And I think Josh Allen, I saw a tweet where he's been performing decent against the Chiefs in the regular season and winning games, and he performs even better against the Chiefs in the playoffs. They've been losing. So I think this is one of the games where his defense is finally going to be able to stick up for him, play to his level, and win the game. So I'm going to go with the Bills here. Ty, who do you got?
Yeah, this is an awesome matchup, year in, year out. This is becoming kind of one of those AFC classics that we used to see, with Peyton Manning versus Tom Brady, right? Like, I mean, two just elite quarterbacks year in, year out, battling for a chance to play in the Super Bowl. I just, like you said, right, Pat gets all the calls, and that's definitely going to play a factor in this game, right? If Buffalo doesn't try to play as sound as they possibly can and avoid some of those penalties, because Jawan Taylor is going to line up 2 yards in the backfield and only get it called once. And that Pat's going to try to take some chances and play with you and then make you try to hit him in the head, right? They got to corral him and make sure that he doesn't get outside of the pocket, for one, because if he gets to that sideline, that's what he does, right? He's going to play with it. I mean, we even saw him in the middle of the field kind of do that and then, do that slide, and the 2 Texans defenders end up hitting each other, and there's a call. So, corralling him is super duper important. And this Buffalo defense has really, really played well the past couple of weeks. They've been able to corral kind of more athletic quarterbacks than Lamar and Bo Nix, right? They got a couple of sacks on Bo. They forced Lamar to fumble last week. They didn't really hit him, but they corralled him, and he kind of tried to scramble out and drop the ball. So, I think that's super important for them. Getting guys like Von Miller and Greg Rousseau kind of good on the contain and getting a lot of pressure up front with Ed Oliver and even Matt Milano, right? Milano has been huge for them. Whether it's in the pass game or in the pass rush. So, I think the defense is obviously super duper key for them. But the biggest differentiator between, this last week's game for the Chiefs against the Texans and this week's game against the Bills, not the defense, right? I think the Bills defense is maybe a little bit worse than the Texans, but playing maybe up to par at the Texans level right now. It's the offense, right? The Texans offense could not get anything going. They kind of look pedestrian. They had a lot of chances. They just could not convert on them. Missed extra point, a lot of missed field goals. Things were not clicking for them, right? This Bills offense is so high powered without any of the big names. And I think that's going to be the big thing for them, right? The Chiefs, lost to this team once already, haven't scored 30 points yet. If this turns into a back and forth scoring game, which I think it has the possibility to do, I don't think the Chiefs can keep up with the Bills. And we've seen it before thus far this season, right? Like, the Bills have proven that they can win in a high-scoring game versus anyone, but they can also just against this Chiefs team. So, I believe in Josh Allen. I believe in the Bills. I think this offense is really good. I don't think Tyler Bass is going to play like Ka'imi Fairbairn has been playing. Fairbairn, that game wasn't That wasn't an outlier for him. He's kind of
Mhm.
struggled in this latter half of the season with field goals and extra points. So, kind of saw that coming for him. The Bills team, they're used to this weather, they're used to the cold, right? They just won a game in the snow against the Ravens. So I have all the confidence in the Bills. I saw this team play, front and center in that wild card round. They were super duper impressive to me. Um, against a Denver team that is also, come very, very close to being this Chiefs team. All it came down to was a blocked field goal. So, I'm going to take the Bills here. Give me that 1992 Super Bowl rematch between the Commies, formerly the Redskins, and the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. I like that you brought up the CJ Stroud-led Texans offense taking on the Chiefs defense, because last week you saw CJ Stroud take a lot of sacks that he probably didn't need to, and he probably had times to throw it away. And I think Josh Allen is a lot better in the pocket in that regard, as he will get the ball away or he'll navigate it, and he's able to get away from defenders a little bit better than CJ Stroud. So I think that provides another really great asset for the Bills in this offense against the Chiefs defense. Now, I will say, as a Chiefs rival fan, you already hate the Chiefs, but I think it's starting to become a more normal thing for the whole NFL fan base. Everyone outside of Chiefs fans, the Chiefs are becoming the NFL's rival, right? You see Patrick Mahomes flopping on like hits where it's really clear there was no need to flop, and just the calls going their way. And NFL fans on Twitter, like I was at the gym, and every time I refreshed my phone during that game, the Chiefs Texans game, there was new notifications or new tweets about Patrick Mahomes is flopping. How are they getting that call? And I'm like, what the hell's going on in this game? Because it was literally every 2 seconds, like something was going on in the Chiefs' favor, and everyone was tweeting about it. NFL pundits, fans of other teams, everyone. So it was really crazy to see. And I think the Chiefs, this is gonna be a hate watch for all of America. So I'm excited to see if the Bills can pull it off. So both of us got the Commies taking on the Bills in the Super Bowl. That would be a really fun matchup. Both teams playing for a lot in that one, and fun storylines. I don't think anyone would be upset with whoever wins, unless you're a rival fan of either of those teams. Anyways, that'll do it for our Super Bowl picks. But real quick, before we end the episode, 2 huge coaching storylines that we want to discuss. First off, Ben Johnson loses the game against the Commies or the Lions, right? And then 2 days later, he is hired to be the Bears head coach. And obviously he didn't do an in-person interview. So he didn't even do like a real visit there. He just kind of signed. And Lions fans across Twitter, across everywhere, social media wise, are pissed. And they're like, Ben Johnson squished up on us. He wasn't really focused on the game. And although like I can kind of see where they have an argument, right? Like your head should be purely on the game. But his offense put up 31 points, 500 yards. You can't really ask for much more than that. Like that's a solid offensive performance. So I think Ben Johnson did fine. It was just unfortunate Jameson Williams throwing a football in double coverage, and then obviously Jared Goff having a few turnovers. Like you can't blame him for all of that. So I think they're getting a little bit too hot and heavy on the Twitter and the hate on Ben Johnson. But it was a little crazy that it was like 2 days right after without visiting either. No other team really had a shot, I don't think. So, Ty, what are your thoughts on Ben Johnson going to the Bears? Do you think that goes well, or do you think Ben Johnson kind of struggles and then has to hop and find another team in a few years?
Yeah, I saw all the hate too, and I kind of tweeted out about this, right? Like very similar to what you just said, right? Like his team scored 31 points, 500 yards. Like, he had some guys make bonehead plays that, especially Jameson, right? He was probably taught not to throw that ball if it's not there, right? And Jamo was just kind of forcing something at the end of the game when they were down. And if you wanted to blame Aaron Glenn signed 2 days later, sure, but like even him, was kind of dealing with nothing. So, I think Ben Johnson has seen this Bears team a lot. They play twice a year, right? So he should know this team pretty well, scouting wise. Maybe he doesn't know the organization as well, but he did do the virtual interview. So, I think it's a good fit for him. I'm not really questioning the whole 2-day thing, right? Because there's a lot of talent there, and everyone's talked about it, right? Get this team a real coach, a real offensive mind, and that can be a problem. And I think, when you look at their whole roster construction, right? You got a young quarterback with a lot of talent. You got, wide receivers on the outside that are young or locked up, and DJ Moore, right? They might lose Keenan Allen, but DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, they got a pretty good tight end, good backs. Like this team, they've gone all out in the past 2 off seasons, and likely will again this off season. So I feel really confident about the move. He's a creative offensive mind. I think he'll really help Caleb out. I really compare this to kind of when Caleb was in college at Oklahoma and both USC with another creative mind in Lincoln Riley. So I think it'll benefit him a lot. Obviously, the staff that he brings in around him will be interesting. I saw Dennis Allen and Darren Rizzi were two people that he would be interested in bringing around. I think there's all that Saints connection between Sean
Mhm.
Payton, Dan Campbell, and all these people, right? So, I think that would be good hires too, right? Because Dennis Allen, although not a successful head coach, has been one. He's a pretty good defensive coordinator. And then Darren Rizzi, right, obviously had some success as an interim head coach and a very good special teams coordinator. So, while I would love to see Rizzi in Denver take over that special teams job, I think if Ben Johnson was able to get these two guys, it'd be some great hires. I also saw that they were looking into, I think it was the Packers defensive backs coach or something like that. So, nothing's set in stone, but I think the staff that he puts around him, especially on the defensive side of the ball, will be important. I think he needs probably someone that can be, like an assistant head coach or a special advisor that has head coach experience too, because, we've seen that a lot with younger head coaches. That's, really helped, teams out and stuff like that. So, I feel good about it. I don't think, it's hard to tell, right? Because this division's so strong. This is the team right before the year that we predicted to make the playoffs. So I think he'll have some success there. I think some of it does depend on, what goes on with the Vikings quarterback situation. Because if they keep Darnold, we saw them have a lot of success. If McCarthy's bad, it's a lot easier of a path in the division. But I believe in Ben Johnson. I think he'll bring the best out of Caleb. And I'm excited to see this offense kind of get rolling next year.
Yeah, I think Ben Johnson's really set up for success, right? You mentioned the candidates that he has for other roles. Darren Rizzi, one of the top special teams coordinators in the league, won the player voted best special teams coordinator in the league last year. And then obviously Dennis Allen, he can coach good defenses, and they already have a solid roster over there, so he doesn't need to add a lot of players, right? That would work for his scheme, the players that they have already. And I think it's just up to Caleb Williams. Obviously, you see Jared Goff succeed in his system, and Jared Goff isn't really an improviser. He kind of just does what is needed of him. Whereas Caleb Williams has a little bit more improviser skills, and he can do things on the fly. So maybe that helps Ben Johnson a little bit more in that offense, or maybe it could hurt. We'll see how that plays out next season. But I think Ben Johnson. Now the question is with that division, obviously, like you just mentioned, I think the Lions fall to like a 10-11 win team. I think Dan Campbell can still rally the troops enough to be a solid squad. Then you got the Packers, probably 10 win team. They'll probably add on some receivers, some defensive talent this year. Then I think the Vikings fall a little bit, and they'll finish fourth in the division next year. I think the Bears are one of the top three teams. I think the Vikings kind of get the odd one out over there. The next discussion, Ty, that I want to talk about real quick is Liam Coen kind of playing ring around the rosy with the Bucks and the Jaguars. The Jaguars, obviously, he was their top candidate in a lot of people's eyes, and then it gets announced that he's about to sign a huge extension with the Buccaneers, become like one of the top paid coordinators in the league. And then the Jaguars go out and they fire their GM almost immediately after all that discussion comes out. Aaron Glenn's not available anymore. That they realized this guy Trent Baalke is blocking us from everyone. So they go and fire him after two head coaches are off the board, which is like you should have done this day one on Black Monday. That should have been done. Trent Baalke gets fired, and then today we just get a lot of news comes out that Liam Coen completely ghosted the Bucks, didn't sign his contract, just said, "Hey, I'm going to get some milk," disappeared, and now he's in Florida, and he might sign with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that's a crazy situation. The Bucks fans would be pissed. I think it would hurt the Bucks a lot losing him after this great season they had on offense. And if he signs with the Jaguars, that'd be a huge for Trevor Lawrence. That offense down there with Brian Thomas Jr. I think it could really turn things around. Ty, what do you think about the situation?
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting, right? Because I heard a rumor that, maybe Ben Johnson didn't want to go there because of Balky. And then there was rumors that Aaron Glenn didn't want to go to the Saints because of Mickey Loomis. So I'm assuming that it was probably a similar situation in Jacksonville, right? He was not interested with Balky there. So top two head coaches kind of go off the board. And now you're realizing, damn, like, we lost those two. Cohen goes back. And where do you turn from here, right? And the rumors were, Robert Saleh and I forget who the other one was, but the candidates were just not, not up to par with, some of the other guys that went off the board. So I think they realized, Balky's got to get out of here. We got to get Cohen. Cohen had a lot of success this year with that Tampa Bay offense. He's a hot candidate. I think he could really do wonders with Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr. and ETN and Bigsby and some of those other guys. So, I like the move by Jacksonville to get rid of Balky and try to go all out on Coen. The thing is, if it doesn't work out, I mean, you can still get a great GM, right? But the Bucs assistant GM is in Vegas now too, so he was another hot candidate. So it's just like, by being slow to this game, you're going to lose out on some of the hot candidates. So you better get Coen, because if you don't get Coen, now you got to fall back on Saleh. Now you got to fall back on another like GM, right? It's just, and then at that point, right, it's just Jacksonville being Jacksonville. So if they can get Coen, I have a lot of faith in what he'll be able to do with Trevor Lawrence, similar to what he was able to do with Baker Mayfield. But if they don't get him, man, this is apocalyptic, because you miss out on Glenn, you miss out on Ben Johnson, then you miss out on your, Liam Coen, probably the top 3 candidates. It doesn't look good for Jacksonville if that happens. So,
yeah, like you said, I mean, this Jacksonville team, they obviously they have talent on the roster, and you have Brian Thomas Jr. to work with on the offense. They need a head coach to come in and just blend it all together and make this team functional again, because they have the pieces. It's just the coaching hasn't been there, and we'll see what happens. I think their owner is really trying to see what's best for the fan base and the organization and trying to turn it around. But man, have they struggled. And so we'll see what happens if they can turn it around. Anyways, next week, I think we're going to talk about with the Pro Bowl and the week before the Super Bowl, we'll talk probably about over and underperformers and make some predictions for NFL awards before those all come out. And then 2 weeks from now, we'll be seeing you for the Super Bowl. So hopefully it's the Bills and Commies. If it's the Eagles-Chiefs rematch, I wouldn't be upset. Like, it's still good content to talk about, but at the same time, Bills Commies is the fun matchup that everyone wants. So go Bills, go Commies, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Ty, any closing statements?
No, I'm just excited to see that hopefully the Commies make it to the Super Bowl. I think this would be great for the city. Having not really been too competitive and not making it back since 1991. So, while I'm not a Commies fan, while I live here in DC, I might as well, relish in the excitement and the fun they have from Jayden Daniels and this team.
You got any bosses that are Commies fans or anything like that? If they win, like, they get it off your ass a little bit, kind of?
No, unfortunately, none of my bosses. It's just like all my boys and, all my other coworkers. So it would be good to see the boys happy about the Commies.
Yeah, of course. With them struggling for so long, sometimes it's worth getting something for your fan base. Anyways, that'll do it. You guys know where to check us out on social media at Jenks Island and anywhere you get your podcasts every week, Thursday or Friday. We will see you guys next week.